Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm so excited to be bringing you a new thriller release video. These are all thrillers that are coming out between May and August. I think there's like one that comes out in September, I want to say. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive into these. They're primarily summer releases or late spring releases. So our first thriller takes place in Utah, and this is by an author who had their debut last year and I loved it, and that's the Quiet Tenant author Clemence, Michallon, and I'm so excited to be checking out hopefully their new release, which is called Our Last Resort, and this will be coming out on July 8th, 2025. And it's about a brother and sister who 15 years ago escaped a cult. And now her brother is the prime suspect in a murder investigation, and this isn't the first time he's a murder suspect. So this thriller kind of tackles the idea of how much do we really know our loved ones. So our main character is Frida, and her brother escaped this cult in this very cloistered area in New York 15 years ago, and they were very close. They could finish each other's sentences, super tight bond, but over the years they've kind of drifted. So they decided to take this really nice trip together to Utah, to this resort in the middle of the desert, and while they're there a young woman is found murdered and the police suspect her brother, and she starts to dig into his life and try to figure out, do I really know him as well as I think I do? And she's also kind of recounting parts of their past. And I'm personally, as awful as it sounds, I am very interested in cults. I find them to be very fascinating looks at human psychology, so I found this premise really interesting, and I loved The Quiet Tenant. I thought that was masterful. And then coming out on June 10th, we have one from the very popular Riley Sager, who for the most part is a hit writer for me, and I'm excited. His new release is called With a Vengeance, and this will be coming out on June 10th, 2025, and it takes place, or at least part of the story takes place in 1942, and then we're reading from 12 years later, where a character is seeking retribution. Our main character in this is Anna, and in 1942, 6 people were responsible for the downfall or some kind of destruction of her family, and she, now 12 years later, is looking for retribution. So she lures these 6 people onto this train, a luxury train, and her goal is to get them to confess and then deliver them to the police at the end of the train. Okay, but this is derailed when an actual murder occurs on board, and now she's scrambling to figure out what is going on. I love a closed, isolated murder trope, and the fact that it's on a train makes this even better, so this one I'm particularly excited for. So this next one I think is the earliest release out of everyone I'm talking about, and this one's coming out on May 6th. It's by Alex Finlay, and it's called Parents Weekend. And it takes place in Northern California, where 5 families are planning basically to hang out together for the opening festivities of Parents Weekend. Their children are all in their first year of college at this small private school together. This one also marks the return of FBI agent Sarah Keller, who features in some of his other books, including The Night Shift and Every Last Fear, which I personally love. Those are some of my favorites by him. And this one, basically, these families are all waiting for their kids to come back, and they never arrive. And at first they think, okay, they're college students, they're brushing off Parents Weekend, but quickly it turns out this isn't the case. They start to contact the police, search parties are formed, influencers and news articles are calling them the 5, and they're trying to figure out the connection between the 5 students, because all 5 of these students, it doesn't seem like they were previously friends. They're all from different kind of social groups and backgrounds and different things, so they kind of seem like an odd group to go missing together, and this might have something to do with the parents' pasts and secrets. I am so ready for this. This sounds amazing. By Cindy RXT, we have This Is Where We Die. It's coming out on July 1st, 2025, and it's about 8 friends who went on a trip. Only 6 made it out alive, and now a killer has one night to make sure the survivors pay for what they did. So this sounds like kind of a take on the one by one kind of trope in thrillers, which I love. So we have the 6 friends who are 6 survivors. They were on this ski trip along years ago, and that's when 2 of their friends didn't make it. But one of them, Sadie's parents, who are very wealthy, kind of covered some stuff up, it sounds like. So maybe they were guilty in some way, I'm not really sure. But now years later, the class that they're in has begged Sadie to rent this mansion for all of them to do a big class reunion party. She agrees. The 6 of them arrive first, and then none of the other classmates arrive. And then a killer starts to kill them one by one. I'm absolutely so ready. I have not read anything by this author, but this sounds absolutely incredible. By Daphne Woolsoncroft, we have Night Watcher. It's coming out on July 8th, And this one involves a late-night call-in radio host in Portland, Oregon, who listens to stories of hauntings and cryptic sightings for a living. So our main character in this is Nola, and as a child, she narrowly escaped a serial killer named the Hiding Man's grasp, and she has a very kind of eerie escape story. And one night she's doing her radio show, which I love any type of radio podcasting element in like a mystery or thriller. So excited. And someone calls in and shares a story that is hauntingly similar to her own escape story. And she starts to panic that the hiding man has resurfaced and is now out there again, taking victims and possibly after her. She has a mysterious next door neighbor, and she also starts to have someone who is stalking her. So she is really panicking and trying to figure out what is going on. I love this. It's kind of giving me the Nothing Man vibes, which I really enjoyed, so I'm really looking forward to this. For the Ruth Ware fans out there, she is actually publishing a sequel to The Woman in Cabin 10, which I personally really enjoyed, and this one's going to be called The Woman in Suite 11, and it's coming out on July 8th. And this one involves our main character again, Lo, who is returning to attend the opening of a luxury hotel, only to find herself in a white-knuckled race across Europe. So this takes place about maybe like 4 or 5 years after the first book. Our main character, Lo, is trying to re-enter journalism, but since a lot has happened, like 2020 and 2021, all the events of that, she's finding that the career that she had is a lot more difficult to kind of get back into after having her child. When she gets this invitation to a press opening of this large Swiss hotel with a billionaire, she's really excited and she hopes that she can snag an exclusive interview with Marcus the billionaire. Well, she's there and he's proven to be very hard to find. She's having a hard time finding him, and she does get a note though to meet him at his room, and when she arrives, she actually comes face to face with his mistress, who claims she's in danger, and now the story is going to show how far Lo is willing to go to help this woman, basically. So I'm very curious about this. I did really enjoy The Woman in Cabin 10. It's not my all-time favorite Ruth Ware, but I'm ready to revisit the storyline. This next one is a mother-daughter type thriller, and it's by Miranda. It's called You Belong Here, and it says a decade-old secret that drove a young woman from her hometown now threatens her college-bound daughter in this twisty new thriller. And this will be released on July 29th. So our main character in this is Beckett, and she left her hometown in her senior year of college. She had always, she has lots of roots there. Her parents were professors at the college there. She ended up going to the college there until something happened her senior year, and her roommate was on the run, and 2 men were found dead. And I'm assuming she had some part in this, or is keeping some kind of secret. And I think it's a small town, so there's a fair amount of people know who she is. So she leaves this town only to find out many years later that her teenage daughter secretly applied to Beckett College and got a full ride scholarship. So she's not going to stand in her daughter's way, but she's really nervous because she knows that this valley that the college is in has a very long memory, and she's worried that her own secrets will jeopardize her daughter. I am here for this. I love a good mother-daughter kind of duo in thrillers, and I think this one sounds very interesting. Coming out on July 29th by Shari Lapena, we have She Didn't See It Coming, and this is a suburban paranoia type thriller. It says when a beloved wife and mother disappears, a luxurious condo building transforms into a potential crime scene. So this one centers around a couple named Bryden and Sam, and they are kind of this perfect couple. They have thriving careers, a beautiful daughter, they live in this luxury condo apartment building, and they seem to have it all together until Bryden gets a call from his, at work, that Sam never picked their daughter up from daycare. And there's no note, there's no message, there's nothing to lead, he has no idea why this happened. So he rushes home and he finds the place everything's normal. It looks like she was just in the middle of working on her laptop, her keys are there, nothing looks out of place except she's not there. It looks like she just walked out, and he has no idea what's going on, and the neighbors start to dig into his past and maybe some secrets the couple was keeping, and are they really as perfect as they seem? My type of thriller exactly. I can't wait for this. By Stacie Gray, we have She Didn't Stand a Chance, and this is coming out on August 12th, 2025. And it says, the desert heat can be deadly, but nothing kills like a cold heart. And if you enjoy a family secrets, inheritance kind of drama thriller, this one's for you. I personally love those tropes. And this one we have our main character, Gertie, and she hasn't seen her siblings in many, many years. It sounds like she was very estranged from her family, but she's called back to the Palm Springs family home for her father's will reading, and she, much to her surprise, inherits a large portion of her father's like portfolio and like his home and like a lot of money basically, and her siblings are furious. So now she is trapped in this home with siblings that aren't really family to her, that are like hate her guts basically, and then she might possibly find some clues that suggest her father might have been murdered. Then a member of the staff is killed, and then she has an almost like near-death accident herself. So it seems pretty clear that someone is out to get her, and I'm all for this. I'm all for the inheritance drama. I think this is going to be so good. By Peter Swanson, who I always find to be a very out there writer, but I've enjoyed mostly. This one is called Kill Your Darlings, and it's coming out on June 10th, 2025. And this is described as an inventive, utterly propulsive murder mystery in reverse, tracing a marriage back in time to uncover the dark secret at its heart. Which completely sold me. That sounds fantastic, and this cover is so eerie. I love it. So this one features a couple, Tom and Wendy Grace, who have been married for 25 years. They seem to have it all together. They have a beautiful home together. They have a beautiful son. But there's just one catch. Wendy wants to kill her husband, and now you are going to read their past leading up to this point, like key milestones in their marriage, like their anniversary, the birth of their son, the death of a co-worker. You're also going to read about their 20s, which seems to have some kind of secret that forged the two of them together. I like hook, line, and sinker. This sounds so fascinating. This next one is the perfect summer thriller. It's a bachelorette party. It's by Camilla Sten, and it's coming out on June 10th, 2025. It's described as Scream meets The Guest List, and it takes place in a remote island nestled off the coast of Sweden. So basically these four best friends go to this remote island every year, and they have a day where they can just shake off the weight of the world, do whatever they want, be reckless, drink, you know, and then go back to their normal lives. However, something happens, and it sounds like these four friends never return from the island, and nobody knows the location of the island. So that's a bit of a problem. 10 years later, we have our kind of maybe central character, Tessa. She's a true crime podcaster, and she has covered Sweden's most gruesome cases, including this one, which was never solved, and she's never been able to solve it either. She's feeling really discouraged with her career, and then one of her friends, Annalise, who's getting married, proposes a bachelorette party on this little island. That sounds an awful lot like the one where those four friends never returned from years ago, and Tessa can't wait to snoop around. I love this. The remote island, the bachelorette party, the true crime podcasting elements. This sounds like my perfect summer thriller right here. Coming out on May 13th, we have one by Lucinda Berry. This is called 1 in 4, and this is about a reality show about former child stars overcoming addiction. And our main character is Dr. Laurel Hardy, and she can't believe she's agreed to be on this reality TV show, and she specializes in addiction treatment. This is going to be her biggest project to date, but the publicity was something she couldn't pass up. She thinks it'll be good for her career, and she's like, okay, you know, I like a challenge, let's try it. But then one of the stars ends up dead, and she's really terrified that the investigators on the case are going to figure out something to do with her past that she's been hiding. So she starts to get involved in it. She's also very skilled at spotting a predator, and she knows one of the other stars is a predator. So she starts to dig into this. This one sounds interesting. I love a reality TV show, like, trope, I guess, for thrillers and mysteries. I think it just adds to the stakes with the cameras, and this one sounded really interesting. Speaking of a perfect summer thriller, this one comes out on June 17th, and it takes place on a cruise ship, which I love, and it's called I Did Warn Her by Sian, Gilbert. And it's described as a cunning, locked-room mystery set on a billionaire's yacht by the author of last year's sensation She Started It. And this is about the ultra-wealthy. The main place for this is called the Ophelia, which is this really luxury cruise, and it's staffed by all these young blonde women who look eerily similar, and we're following one of these crew members, and she starts to kind of get confused because jewels are disappearing from guest room. There seems to be some like thief on the run, and then the billionaire brings two of his female friends who are also very beautiful on board, and they seem to have some secrets. There seems to be some things going on there, and then one of the crew members is murdered. So I love this. We have locked room, we have the cruise ship setting for like a good summer thriller, jewel thief, murderer. I'm so excited for this. By Mary Watson, we have The Cleaner. This is coming out on July 29th, and it's described as it's not dust she's looking for, it's dirt. So this is all about the dark underbelly of a protected society. Our main character is Esme, and she is a cleaner, and she's well aware that her clients, who are very wealthy, they don't really see her as a person. She's just kind of there to do her job, and they don't really think twice about her accent or think about her, where she might have come from. And that's exactly how she wants it, because she is here in this like wealthy suburb area of Ireland looking for dirt on these clients, possibly for some revenge after all these years. Coming out on June 24th by Lisa Jewell, we have Don't Let Him In, and this is described as 3 women who are connected by one man in this kaleidoscopic thriller. So we have the central man in this, Nick Radcliffe, who seems like a very charming man. He's got good taste, he's got a great smile, he seems like he's treating her mother really well, but Ash, her adult daughter, isn't convinced. She thinks he's a little too slick. She's got like a bad gut feeling about him. So she starts to secretly, behind her mother's back, investigate her mother's boyfriend, trying to find out about his past. And we have this other lady, Martha, that we're following. She's a florist in a neighboring town, and she has an infant daughter and her husband who travels for work. But lately he's disappearing more and more. His absences are longer and longer, and she can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. But when she asks him about it, he always has legitimate excuses for his disappearances. So is she being paranoid, or is something going on? Lisa Jewell always shocks me, so I can't wait for this. This next one latches onto a very interesting social media trend, and I do really love like an influencer character in a thriller. I think it can add some pretty interesting elements, and this one is called Everyone Is Lying to You by Joe Piazza, and this is coming out on July 15th, and it's described as a hashtag tradwife murder mystery we've all been waiting for. So we have our 2 central characters, Lizzie and Bex, and they were best friends in college, but after graduating, Bex disappears, leaving behind a very hurt Lizzie. Fast forward, I think like 15 years later, and Bex has now become a Rebecca online, and she is this tradwife influencer, which, if you're not familiar, it's like a very traditional life influencer, like think 1950s, like kind of living almost. I'm not an expert on the topic, don't go for me, but she's like showing off her beautiful cooking, her ranch life, her beautiful 5 children, her husband Gray, and she actually reaches out to Lizzie, who is a struggling writer, struggling to meet ends meet. And she's like, hey, why don't you come do this exclusive interview with me at this conference? And this would be a huge career boom for Lizzie. And she's also kind of curious about what's happened to her friend, so she goes out there. But then her friend disappears, and her friend's husband is found murdered on their ranch. So now she's trying to piece together who her friend has become after this like distance between them, and this just sounds fascinating. It's supposed to be a very interesting commentary on the sordid side of social media, and I love a writer main character, so this one sounded very interesting to me. And last but not least, we have one coming out on September 1st, and this is called Please Don't Lie, a Crystal River, book 1 in a series by Christina Baker Kline and Anne Burt. So our main character is Haley Stone, and 2 years ago she lost everything. Her parents died in this tragic house fire, and then a bit after that her sister died, it sounded like from an overdose. So the media has just eaten up her life. They've just hounded her, and her husband is like, hey, why don't we relocate to this small isolated mountain town? We can get away, we can have a fresh start. So she agrees, but things are a little creepier than she anticipated. The widow down the street has these accusations that they keep spewing at her, and then her husband, who was once very like close and tender to her, is now very volatile and distant. And then this couple who's living on the property with them is kind of interesting, it sounds like, and it sounds like Haley's gonna have to face her past and possibly run from some other terrible things to get out of this thriller alive. Alright guys, those are the new thrillers that really caught my attention for late spring and summer this year. Let me know if I missed any that you're really excited about. I'm always looking for more recommendations from you guys, but these thrillers were especially enticing to me, and I hope you enjoyed this video and some of these upcoming thriller release synopses. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy thriller content, please hit subscribe. I do post new book content every week on my channel, ranging from cozy mysteries all the way to thrillers, really anything with a mystery at its heart I talk about here. Thanks again for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!